Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at KAKM for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. Up on the warning, watch, and advisory map, there's a coastal flood warning out for the northern Arctic coast, out for another hour until 7 p.m. this evening there for the minor coastal flooding that went on in that area today. Then back to the west here, the western Arctic coast has a high surf advisory out for 6 to 8 foot seas, causing some minor beach erosion, and that's also out until 7 p.m. this evening. And down farther south here, the Chukchi Sea coast, there's a high surf advisory out for tonight and through the day tomorrow, actually for tomorrow into midday Sunday. Again, the same sort of pattern going on today up here on the western Arctic coast, expected here on tomorrow and into tomorrow night into noon Sunday. Actually, there's again 6 to 8 foot seas could cause some minor beach erosion through these areas. And then another warning zone here, the northeastern Brooks Range has a winter storm warning out for heavy snow, looking for 4 to 6 inches of snow to fall tonight and tomorrow here for the northeast Brooks Range area through midday tomorrow. And then there's a flood advisory out for the Chena River upstream of Moose Creek Dam, and that's out for tonight into midday tomorrow. And then a winter weather advisory here for the Denali area above 3,000 feet, looking for 3 to 5 inches of snow to fall there tonight, and having a storm total by tomorrow afternoon of about 5 to 10 inches. Again, that is above 3,000 feet. Now going to satellite imagery, you can see a frontal system here right into the southeast coast brought rain, heavy at times, especially over the southern areas there, with gusty winds to the panhandle, the main low center off the coast there, but a lot of clear skies here. Partly to mostly sunny over the Copper River Basin, mostly sunny skies over south central Alaska, especially the areas south and east of the Alaska Range there. Just some bands of cirrus coming across the mid-Cook Inlet area. And then Kodiak Island, mostly just high clouds down through this area. Lower cloud deck back to the north there with actually some rain reaching the Alaska Peninsula. Rain, fog, and drizzle skirting the southwest coast and then back across the northern Bering Sea, all the way out into that system there over toward Shemya that brought low IFR flying conditions with rain and fog to that area today. Then we've got the storm there up over the central Arctic coast, or just actually northwest of Barrow, the low center. That brought 25 gust 40 mile per hour winds to that area during the day today, along with rain and snow along the Arctic coast and the North Slope areas there. Again, depending on your elevation, Wainwright carrying mostly snow throughout the day, but most of the other areas had mostly rain falling in that area. But a lot of clouds here over the interior areas there, but there was some clearing up over the upper Yukon Valley areas, but mostly cloudy skies, scattered showers over the interior today. On the chart, you can see the showers in this area, rain and snow showers back to the north, and then the rain, drizzle, and fog here kind of skirting the southwest coast, most of that sliding down into the Alaska Peninsula, back across the Pribilofs, and then all the way out again into that frontal system back over the western Aleutian areas. And here's that front off the southeast coast that brought gale force winds to Clarence Strait today from the southeast, while Lynn Canal, northern Lynn Canal, had gale warnings from the north up to 35 knots during the day today. Otherwise, south to southeast winds 15 to 30 miles per hour here along much of the panhandle, with rain as much as 2 3/4 inches falling into the net in the last 24 hours, while Port Alexander had over 2 inches of rain. And then Hoona had about 1.5 inches of rain, and Sitka a little over an inch in the same 24-hour period. So quite a bit of moisture with this system there as it moved in. Otherwise, again, the partly to mostly sunny skies here. Mostly sunny along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Gusty winds as well, up to 65 miles per hour at Valdez, while Seward had north winds gust to 50 miles an hour, and some pretty brisk northwest winds across Kodiak Island, gusting up to 40 miles per hour there, but diminishing back along the Alaska Peninsula. High pressure just ridging up over Bristol Bay brought mostly sunny skies to northeast Bristol Bay, but again, all the clouds here to the north. We'll see tonight that front weakens into a trough and kind of stalls out along, really just slowly moving eastward here along the southeast coast. That's going to keep periods of rain going from Dixon Entrance all the way up to Skagway. Yakutat kind of right on the edge, but probably remain far enough to the west to keep out of the moisture there. Just a few clouds. Stays fair here over south central Alaska with diminishing wind conditions. And then we've got the snow over the northeast Brooks Range area going with that winter storm warning, snow showers back to the west. And then rain or snow showers and gusty winds over the western Arctic coast with scattered showers on the east side there. And then all that moisture coming across the northern Bering Sea, sliding into the southwest coast, mostly the Kuskokwim Delta, Nunivak Island area southward into Bristol Bay. A chance of occasional light rain and fog. Some of that moisture will slide into the western and southwestern side of Kodiak Island. The east side probably staying dry with just clouds, scattered showers along the Alaska Peninsula, and then rain back out with that main frontal boundary with the cold front out here over the western Aleutians and southwest Bering Sea. And then for tomorrow, we'll see low pressure drops right onto the northwest coast there, with keeping the rain and snow showers going in that area. Snow continues over the eastern Brooks Range with the same pattern, more scattered snow showers back to the west. Look for some scattered showers over the Selawik Valley, Kotzebue Sound, Seward Peninsula areas, but drying out to the southeast right through this area. And then showers will extend here from the upper Yukon Valley southwest through the mid-Tanana Valley area, central interior, down along the Denali Park area. Again, that's going to be in the form of snow above 3,000 feet, where the winter weather advisory is still going for tomorrow. Otherwise, another partly to mostly sunny day. Variable mid and high clouds here for the Cook Inlet areas, Madanuska, Susitna valleys. Dry conditions, partly sunny skies up across the Copper River Basin into the upper Tanana Valley and 40 Mile Country. Should be fair skies there. And then rain changes to showers as the heavier precipitation, or the more continuous precipitation, shifts into Canada. That'll allow conditions to become a little more showery there for the southeast coast, but still a trough off the coast there, keeping the showers going. They won't end altogether. Then down in this area here, a new development taking place, and that's going to develop and move some good solid rain into the southern panhandle on Sunday, with an increase in the winds as well, but showers will be more scattered up over the northern areas. With Yakutat, just a chance of some scattered showers. Winds increase here again over south central Alaska, the western Alaska Range, Kodiak Island areas. Gale warnings out for the Barren Islands along the east side of Kodiak Island, and up to 20 to 30 knots through Cook Inlet from the north and northwest. Otherwise, sunny skies in this area, or mostly sunny skies. Showers will be a little more numerous there over the central interior, down along the western Alaska Range. There's a risk of some showers over the eastern Alaska Range. Otherwise, just a partly to mostly cloudy day with some scattered showers over the eastern interior. Scattered snow showers continue along the Brooks Range there, with scattered showers the eastern Arctic coast. Areas of low clouds and fog, making for some IFR flying conditions for the western and central Arctic coast. High pressure here over the Bering Sea will make for light winds for the Pribilofs, and just a light northwest wind here along the coast. Should be mostly dry over the Yukon and Kuskokwim Delta. A risk of a shower lingering there over the Kilbrook and Auckland mountain areas, and some scattered showers here across the Seward Peninsula. Could get into some sunshine up over the North Tack and possibly Selawik Valley areas. And then this front spreading rain in across the central Aleutians, spreading to the eastern Aleutians during the afternoon on Sunday. So a chance of rain for Alaska, just clouds here for the Alaska Peninsula. It's staying mostly sunny there on the Pacific side of the peninsula, and there'll be some sunny breaks also over Bristol Bay, and then more rain way out west with that low center farther toward the Komodorsky Islands. Temperatures this afternoon along the southeast coast pretty uniform with all the clouds, rain, and windy conditions there, mostly in the lower to mid 50s, although Annette did push up to 58 today. Juneau had 54 degrees. 10 degrees warmer with some sunshine there at Yakutat and 62 at Cordova, and the wind and 59 degrees in Valdez, 50 degrees at Gulkana with some partly sunny skies this afternoon, only 42 up at Northway, and 39 at Delta. Fairbanks 46 degrees. Otherwise lower 60s here along the Kenai Peninsula in south central Alaska. Palmer up to 60 degrees, about the same in Anchorage. Squintina 59. Talkeetna 56. They came up from a morning low of 30 degrees this morning. Kodiak Island, northwest winds and mostly sunny skies. Just some high thin overcast there with 64. And farther to the north, up over the upper Yukon valleys, Fort Yukon had 48 degrees today. The Koyukuk Valley, lower 40s, 39 at Anatuvik, but Arctic Village up to 45. And lower 40s on the eastern Arctic coast, upper 30s back to the west, lower to mid 40s here over the northwest interior, and lower 50s for the Seward Peninsula, and 40s to lower 50s here over the southwest interior with a 52 at Macoriac, 46 at Gamble. And out over the Pribilof Islands, St. Paul had 55 today, up to 63 there on Alaska, 64 at False Pass, and then 10 degrees cooler with some clouds and a little bit of drizzle or rain going on at Cold Bay. Same thing, same pattern there at Nelson Lagoon, 58 at King Salmon. Adak with sunshine today had 61 degrees, but the rain and fog, 52 out at Shimia. Lows for tonight into the 20s there, upper 20s for the Brooks Range, mid to upper 20s here for the eastern interior, the upper Tanana Valley areas, 40-mile country from about Eagle at 25 down into the Copper River Basin, all dropping it into the upper 20s. Otherwise, lower to mid 30s to some cases lower 40s here over south central Alaska, mostly in the lower to mid 40s over the southwest coast and Bristol Bay, staying in the mild 50s there for the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. Otherwise, the Arctic coast, lower to mid 30s, mildest in the west there with Point Hope at 38 for the forecast low, upper 30s also for the Seward Peninsula. And for the highs tomorrow, upper 30s to lower 40s for the Arctic coast, about the same through the Brooks Range areas. 40s over the east central interior areas, extending back across the Yukon Delta and the Seward Peninsula. Upper 50s to lower 60s for south central Alaska, with mildest conditions along the North Gulf Coast and in the Susitna Valley. 50s again for the Panhandle, and 50s also out over the Bering Sea, the Aleutians, and the Alaska Peninsula. Looking at flying weather, lots of IFR, western Arctic coast through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, kind of just glancing the Yukon Delta coast and Nunavak Island, extending across much of the Bering Sea into the western and central Aleutians. Looking for some pretty good VFR flying here over much of interior Alaska from Bristol Bay across Kodiak Island. Look for some marginal VFR over the central and southern southeast coast, and marginal also in areas of the Brooks Range. Anatuvik, look for marginal VFR tomorrow. Same forecast for Adigan, occasionally marginal. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR flying for those passes, rainy, wide open, and windy will be VFR, as well as Isabel and Mentasta, both looking VFR. For Tanita, VFR in the forecast for tomorrow, as well as Portage, still forecasting VFR weather on both entrances, and Chilkoot and White appear to be VFR. And for the freezing levels at the surface here tomorrow morning here over the eastern Brooks Range through the eastern interior down into the Copper River Basin areas, and then quite a gradient here over the eastern Bering Sea from about 2,000 feet near St. Lawrence Island all the way up to 12 to 14,000 feet here over the Pribilofs, with 14,000 plus freezing levels over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and then 2,000 feet right down to about Anchorage tomorrow morning with the 8,000 foot level there near Kodiak Island. Looking at icing possibilities for tomorrow, above 3,000 feet here over the Brooks Range, back over the northwest interior, Seward Peninsula, western Arctic coast, and above about 10,000 feet of the light to isolated moderate rime icing there across the Alaska Peninsula, staying mostly south of Kodiak Island, extending back to the Pribilofs and then southwest through the central Aleutians. And then look for some occasional icing threats here above 6,000 feet for the southeast coast. And the winds aloft tomorrow, upper level low right over the north slope with a pretty good jet here coming out of the Russian Far East, 100 to up to 140 knots across Bristol Bay and Kodiak Island. And at 9,000 feet, northwesterlies 30 to 50 knots, Kodiak Island back across the Alaska Peninsula, 25 to 35 knot north and northwest winds here along southwest Alaska, much lighter and more variable here over the eastern interior. Southeasterlies 10 to 20 knots there along the Panhandle, and westerlies at about 25 to 30 knots there, or 25 to 35 knots across the Aleutians. And much the same pattern at 3,000 feet. Northwest up to 45 knots in the Alaska Peninsula, northwesterlies 20 to 35 knots here across the southwest coast and Kodiak Island. Light variable conditions here over the eastern interior, northerlies at about 25 knots over the Kotzebue Sound area, and westerlies 30 to 35 along the Aleutians. Low pressure right off the southeast coast, not too bad on the winds there, just 5 to 15 knots out of the southeast, with the stronger winds down to the south. Looking at turbulence, none expected over the eastern interior from the Arctic coast southward into the Gulf of Alaska or the Panhandle, but occasional moderate chop below 4,000 feet for the Alaska Peninsula, Yukon Delta, Seward Peninsula, and right up along the Chukchi Sea. And after the break, after hangar flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. On behalf of Alaska Public Media, thank you for watching Hangar Flying. This evening, we are pleased to have Joshua Carlson on the show. Joshua is the winner of the 2015 Tom Wardley Memorial Scholarship, which was given by the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation. He's a very deserving candidate. He has an associate's degree in aviation maintenance technology and a bachelor's degree in aeronautics from Embry-Riddle. Welcome to the program, Joshua.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, how'd you get started in aviation?
Well, I guess 2004, I graduated high school, didn't really know exactly what route I was going to go. Decided to join the Air Force, did a couple years in the Air Force, and I picked up my AFSC, which is originally was aircraft structural maintenance. Got assigned to Holloman Air Force Base, started on the F-117 as a mechanic, and then I was actually at Holloman for 8 years. The F-117 retired, they brought in the F-22. My career field changed to low observables, where that is more specific on the stealth technology versus the actual structures. So worked on the 22 till then, and then I was lucky enough to get an assignment up to Alaska in 2011.
So you're working at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, and you're maintaining airplanes. Do you think that makes you a better pilot?
Yeah, absolutely. I think being able to it gives you it broadens your perspective on aviation in general, and if you're able to see things from a mechanic's point of view, and if you're a pilot able to see things from a mechanic's point of view, I think that helps. If you're a mechanic able to see things from a pilot's point of view, you're going to be able to, you're more educated on more topics, and I think everything works together, so it definitely helps out.
You had a very impressive application, I have to tell you. In addition to working a full-time job, you've been working on your ratings, you also have a family. Do you have any tips for managing work, life, and flying?
I'll start with a good wife, supportive wife. She picks up the slack in a lot of areas. She knows that we're kind of committed to doing this right now. And anyone in aviation, especially on the pilot side of things, they know, I mean, it's demanding. It never ends. It's something that, once you get that bug, if you got it, you got it. And it's gonna take some effort and a lot of time, and that's what you're gonna. I think ultimately that's what you're going to decide. That's what you're going to do, and you have to have a good support system, and you have to be focused and disciplined, and you got to prioritize it. It has to be a priority if that's something you want to do.
So for somebody starting a career in aviation, would you advise following in your footsteps and starting a career with the military?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the military, everyone's different. For me, I needed the military. That was a great, if I wouldn't have came in right out of high school, I don't know, I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at now. It definitely is a good way of life. Going that route, it provided a lot of opportunity. It gave me a lot of discipline, focus. And it puts you in an environment that you wouldn't be exposed to if you don't go that route, and it kind of forces you to grow up a little quicker, and figure out what direction you want to take things in life. So I definitely think it was beneficial.
And do you think that your current job has been helpful in guiding you along the lines of piloting?
As far as being interested in becoming a pilot, that kind of was, for me personally, it was kind of an accident. I was in New Mexico, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in my current job. I love being in the military. I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do, and I just was kind of poking around, looking at different ideas. And I talked to, at the time, I talked to an Army recruiter, and I had my associates, and I know you could be a warrant officer in the Army with a 2-year degree, and I heard that you could fly helicopters. So I asked around about that, and he told me, get some flight hours under your belt at the Aero Club down at Holloman. So I was like, okay, kind of back burner. And then like a few months later, an opportunity opened up to go to ground school. So I went through the ground school, and I was interested. It was tough. It was overwhelming. And I did that, and then I started flight training, and I was hooked. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Oh, that's great. That's certainly a measure of success, and congratulations again on winning the scholarship. You're a great candidate, and thank you for being here. We look forward to having you on our next show where we talk about some of your flight training.
Okay, hey, thank you.
I'd encourage anyone in the audience that is working towards a career in aviation to apply for our scholarships. The scholarships are not just for pilots, but for anyone interested in aviation, including maintenance and dispatch. Until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. Well, southerly winds at about 15 knots along the central and south coast. East to southeast winds here at 20 knots for the north coast tomorrow. Lynn Canal northerlies at about 20 knots and about 15 knots here for Stevens Passage. And then winds stay southeast but diminish to 20 knots there for Clarence Strait, with seas running at about 4 feet, anywhere from 6 to 10 feet here out along the outer coastline. And then for Sunday, northerly winds 15 to 20 knots here, Lynn Canal down across Stevens Passage. Then that next system coming in, look for the south to southwest winds increasing to 20 to 30 knots here along the south coast, and southeast winds up to 30 knots there for Clarence Strait. Otherwise, northerly winds on the extreme north coast at 15, and westerlies there 15 knots. And for Cook Inlet tomorrow, northerly winds at about 10 knots. Light variable winds here for the western North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast, eastern North Gulf Coast, northerlies at about 15 knots. Northwesterlies coming down to 20 knots here from Kamishak Bay down across the Barren Islands, and still some pretty brisk westerlies there on the east side of Kodiak Island with seas up to about 9 feet. Northwest 15 for Shelikof Strait. Those increased to 30 knots out of the northwest on Sunday, with gales back in the picture here for the east side of Kodiak Island, the Barren Islands. Northwest small craft advisories there for Kamishak Bay. Northwesterlies 25 knots for the North Gulf Coast, and northwest at about 15 for Prince William Sound. Not too strong there, but look for higher gusts out of the northern and western bays and passes in those areas. Northerlies 20 knots for northern Cook Inlet and southern Cook Inlet, northwest at 25. And out for the Bristol Bay area tomorrow, northwest 25. Gale force westerlies here for the Alaska Peninsula, all the way from Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, and also on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula there, with higher gusts occurring through the passes. And then for Sunday's outlook, still looking at small craft advisories here for Bristol Bay, 25 knot winds there. Lighter north to northwesterlies at about 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, and from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, northwesterlies at about 30. For the Fox Islands tomorrow, look for westerly winds up to 30 knots with seas to 8 feet. And for the central Aleutians, south to southwest, 25 knots, and southerlies at 20 knots out towards Shemya. Excuse me. Then small craft advisories come back on Sunday out in this area with lighter southerly winds, 10 to 20 knots here through the central Aleutian areas, and southeasterlies at 15 for the Fox Islands with seas running 5 to 6 feet. For the southwest coast, northerlies 20 to 25 knots, north to northeast winds here across the Bering Sea at 20 knots, St. Lawrence Island northerlies at 25. And those become northwest at 25 and west to northwest winds at 20 for the southwest coast. Light easterly winds for the Pribilofs and westerlies 20 for the northern Bering Sea. For the eastern Arctic coast there, southeast up to 30 knots, otherwise southerlies 15 to 20 knots for the central and east central coast, west 25. Small craft advisories here for the western coast all the way down to the Bering Strait coastline. And those small craft advisories continue from Wales to Cape Beaufort here on Sunday with lighter, more variable winds for the central and eastern coast, northwesterlies 10 to 20. For tonight, winter storm warning for heavy snow for the northeastern Brooks Range. Look for 4 to 6 inches of snow or so to fall there overnight tonight. Otherwise, scattered showers. Flood advisory continues for the Chena River there for tonight into midday tomorrow. Rain spreading in over Bristol Bay in the southwest interior. Chance of rain increases there over Kodiak Island, but mostly the Alaska Peninsula area where a few showers will linger. Rain continues over the southwest coast and then the southeast coast, and that changes to showers tomorrow. More rain for the Alaska Peninsula, and then another storm moves in.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.